Hi.
And welcome.
What's up?
Typically, when Cappy has a book she really, really loves and she asks me to read it, and when I have a book I really, really love and I ask her to read it, we don't feel similarly to each other. Like, for example, what's that fucking
Gideon
book?
the Ninth.
Gideon the Ninth. I was so bored.
Okay.
I could tell why you liked it, but I didn't connect.
I can tell why your lower standards connected with this.
Is that what I said?
No, I could read between the lines.
Always takes insult when none is intended.
Hold on. But I will say there are times where both of us are just like obsessed with a thing. Like Jared Ward, you anti-recommended Jared Ward to me, and then I read it and I was just like, my brain exploded. So we are friends for a reason.
On the other hand, when she decided to read the Mercy books, Mercy Thompson series, she finds them boring and repetitive.
A little.
And I adore those.
I like Alpha and Omega. I think Alpha and Omega is the standout in her werewolf books, personally. And I think we feel the exact opposite about those, right? Like, are you kind of bored with Alpha and Omega?
I just don't like them as much, but I still enjoy them. I still love them. But anyway.
I enjoy Mercy Thompson.
Anyway. So when she said, you should read Slewfoot, we can do a video on it. I loved this book. My first impulse was just like, oh no, I don't want to hurt her feelings if I don't like it. Because I never want to hurt her feelings if I don't like a book. We don't have very similar tastes in books, actually.
I don't really know how that is. We don't have similar tastes in books or movies or anything, but we are best friends and have been for 13 years.
And, like, most of our opinions are the same, but except for
that is weird.
Except for with art.
No, but that is a strange thing, though, that, like, but, like, we both adore some things that the other one likes. But there's a lot of stuff that we just don't. Like, that's very weird for friends who've been friends for, like, nearly half our lives.
But, so, when it was time to start Slewfoot, I was very hesitant, but I put it on, and I loved it. This is my favorite book ever. I loved it so much that the anxiety I felt for 75% of this book did not dampen my love.
Yes. This book goes in the category good for her. It has the vibes of the witch and the hatred of the witch, and it is excellent. It's very, very long, I'll say, and if you...
Yeah, it is a slow book, so if that's something that bothers you, keep that in mind.
Also, I'll say right off the bat, no sexual assault. You'd expect it because this book, I guess we should say what it's about, takes place in 1666.
Yeah, this will be a spoiler review, by the way. I'll make sure to put that in the title.
Full spoilers. It is olden times, literally.
No, I'm good.
So,
Our file got corrupted.
we lost all but the first 5 minutes to the Slewfoot video.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really remember where we left off, so we're just going to keep that first 5 minutes, but keep going anyway.
Mm-hmm. I think you were point by point, I think, explaining the plot of the book.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to give you a generalized idea of what the plot of this book is, which is that this woman named Abatha, she came over to America from England to marry a Puritan man named Edward. No one likes her because she's not a Puritan and she thinks it's all kind of dumb. What she says. And then Edward dies, and the village turns against her and tries to take her farm. And as they're trying to take her farm, she enters into a deal with Slewfoot, also known as Samson, also known as the devil. And he helps her grow her crops as he's trying to figure out and reconnect with his identity, which he has kind of lost and forgotten due to some traumatic events from his past.
He's a sad boy. Sad boy devil, which is my favorite kind of man.
Yes. And for just a little bit of spoilers at this point. So yeah, if you don't want spoilers for Slewfoot.
Oh, if you don't want spoilers, the book is excellent. And if you like the vibes of the movie The Witch and Good for Her stories, I would highly recommend it.
Yeah. So at the end of this book, they try Abatha as a witch for some very contrived things. And they sentence her to death. And then Samson comes along and is just like, well, I don't like that. Would you like to be a witch? And she's like, yeah. Yeah, I'd like to be a witch.
Yeah, it was. Would you like to die here as a human and kind of maintain your soul, or would you like to live a very long time as a not human? And she's like, I want to ruin everything.
And she gets revenge on the whole village, and it's delicious.
It's my favorite good for her that I've ever had the pleasure of reading. This book is very long and mostly atmosphere, but it does a really good job building up to the point where when she does get her revenge, it's so anticipated and earned that the savoring of it, which is very long, is perfect.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was mentioned in the original 5 minutes, but this is my favorite book. Mm-hmm. I loved it so much. The writing was so beautiful to the point that this is my copy of the book. I bought it. When I bought it, I was flipping through it just to look at the pictures, and I started reading a little bit because it just sucks you in that easily. It's like beautifully written. It's very powerful. It just like draws you in, and I ship them.
Yeah, that's the only thing that kind of disappointed me a little is it wasn't very explicit on if her and Samson like were an item because there's no like he cares deeply for her, but it's never terribly romantic, so you don't know. And it doesn't like knock it down anything for me. I just wish that there would have been a romance. You in your headcanon say you do think that they ended up together.
Yeah,
because at the
that's
end
the
of
vibes I felt.
At the end of the story, it's insinuated that they're like living together in like this little cottage.
Yeah.
Punishing people.
And that's how I felt. And like another thing with this book is like everything was so like it's slow. Yes, I don't mind slow books. If you do, I would suggest honestly hesitating at least before reading this because it does take a while to get going. But everything was earned because it was slow. Like he carefully set up everything so that later on it would pay off in a delightful way.
You need it, yeah, because the extent it goes at the end really requires a lot of work on. You need everyone in the village to deserve what she does, and I don't know if it's in the first 5 minutes. Not really any sexual assault in this. There's like something kind of like bordering on it because they strip someone.
Yes,
but it's not like there's no rape in it.
Yeah, no rape and no more.
No more explicit sexual specific stuff.
Yeah.
If you consider taking someone's clothes off as sexual assault, which in some contexts I think it is, but in this one they were torturing her. I think they were like physically, like were they cutting her? Or what are they
were
doing?
looking for devil marks.
So whatever you consider for that, but there's nothing that I feel I would consider like specifically sexual assault. So if you're worried about that, you're in the clear. I didn't know either way, so when I was reading it, I was like braced for it, but I told her there was nothing, so she got to relax and know that wasn't coming.
Relax a little bit. I was still braced toward the end, because like, the thing with these kinds of books, where at the end, the whole point is that they're going to torture a woman, or like, there's going to be a witch trial, is I've read books where they make it so brutal that it's just to get a reaction out of you, the reader, and it doesn't serve the story. And that's my biggest issue with horror and thriller in general, which this is a horror novel. It's kind of like...
It's like classic horror, kind of. Like horror, not just like slasher trash.
So, that's my biggest issue with horror and thrillers is that most of what happens in them, it's done for the reader and it's not done for the story, and it takes me right out of it. And a lot of times, to put it as bluntly as possible, it just makes me feel gross.
Yeah, thrillers I think are kind of worse because they're more like they do it like it feels like kind of to tantalize.
Yeah, I have no problem with like true crime or thrillers or horror as a concept, but for me personally, I just don't get enjoyment out of like the dregs of humanity. I don't get enjoyment out of watching people suffer. I don't find entertainment, or it's not really entertainment because like it doesn't fascinate me, I guess, because that's the whole point of true crime, is that people find it fascinating, and I understand why people find it fascinating. For me personally, I don't feel that, so if I consume too much of it, I start to feel real gross.
I think there's a whole debate to be had about the ethics of true crime, which is not for today, but I have opinions on a lot of true crime, specifically true crime makeup channels, which I won't voice here as to not ruffle feathers, but You gotta be. It's right on the borderline. Some of this stuff. Anyway, yeah. But I understand what you mean.
Yeah, but this didn't have any of those feelings. This is the kind of horror I can be down with, where horrific things do happen, and it makes you feel bad, but it doesn't make you feel gross for consuming it.
Doesn't make you feel like you were part of the bad. Like you didn't contribute to something atrocious.
Everything that happened in this wasn't to get a reaction out of me. It was for the story, which is what I like. That's what I need in my horror.
It didn't sensationalize.
And as an aside, I'll never like thrillers.
Yeah, so like it didn't sensationalize the brutality, in my opinion. Like some things do. Like a lot of television lately, aka Jeffrey Dahmer, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, Dahmer, whatever they call it. It's like Dahmer semicolon, the Jeffrey Dahmer story monster.
My dog got shaved today.
She looks fine. I don't know what your problem is.
I like to leave her ears fluffy.
Her ears look good.
Cujo. They shaved her ears and her tail.
Cujo, do you have anything to say? Cujo, do you have anything to add? Okay. She likes her ears.
But anyway, the other thing I liked about this, about Abatha specifically, is this kind of character who is a woman being written by a man, a modern day man, but in the 1600s, very easily could be like too on the nose. That's one of my biggest issues with books and characters that are meant to be like a feminist take, is because I want to enjoy it. I want to seep into that story, but so often it's so on the nose and so like against the grain that I can't. That's kind of like that Lessons in Chemistry book. That's why I'm not going to read it, is because so many people talk about that main character and the way they describe her. I'm just like, I'm not going to enjoy that book because it's written too much for me nowadays and not what an actual progressive woman then would be like. And she does not have that issue.
This is a little apples and oranges, but it makes me think of like the movie The Help, where it takes place in the 1960s and the white girl protagonist has the values of people today. And it's like, I understand why you did it, but it doesn't necessarily make sense. But you also don't want the protagonist to have like not the same kind, like it would be really hard if she, with a character like this, who like women were so horribly treated. And it's just like, it'd be really exhausting to read it if she was a certain level of beaten down. I think it was like right on the line of like what you can take as a reader, but I understand what you mean too, of like it's really delicate, like what level of self-defense she should have and how people should treat her, but it wasn't like pandering.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the good word for it. Is sometimes it feels like pandering, and it's just like, I get what you're going for, and I wish I could love it as much as other people love it. And with this one, I do love it as much as other people love it, and that makes me happy.
I have not heard a ton of people talk about this book, Books in Lala.
Yeah, Kayla read it, and then you don't watch her, but Riley Marie loved this book.
This book's dope.
So I also adore this book.
What was cut from our original video was our brief discussion on Your and My Taste. Because I recommended this book to you, sort of.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm why you read it.
Yeah.
But we have this thing of, like, we're very similar people, but we have, like, weirdly different tastes. So, like, there's not really any shows or movies or books that we both really enjoy.
Basically, the irony is we have the exact same opinion on everything, but we don't like the same art, movies, TV shows, or books.
Yeah, so it's pretty rare when the stars align and we both adore something. We have a handful of shows that we watch, mostly reality shows. We have a few movies we both really like. I think Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yeah. But you like it for the
daddy stuff.
And I like it for the sister relationship.
So, but like for books, when one of us loves a book and the other one's like, hey, go read it, we don't really do that because we kind of know that it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
Because like I recommended Gideon the Ninth to you and it didn't hit, and you recommended Mercy Thompson, which I like just fine, but I like Alpha and Omega better. So it's like J.R. Ward, for example, but you didn't tell me, you specifically told me not to read it. Yeah. Because you thought I'd hate it, but I love it. So that's one series we have in common.
Yeah. So this
was a special case.
Yes, and I adore it. I love it so much. Enough that I bought it, which I don't buy books very often.
$25 too. It's not even like, it wasn't even cheap. I also spent $25 to own it, which I've been mostly buying comic books lately, so to buy like a book was rare for me. So
yeah,
my throat. It touched my neck meat.
All right, so I'm sorry if this video was a little little janky because of the
Yeah.
technical issue. But I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, do all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye.